Most mentoring programs fail. How we resolve that misunderstanding is our topic today. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, let's do this. Mentoring programs and mentors, they are not the same thing. The misunderstanding of the two may be the greatest reason why most club mentoring programs fail. How we resolve that misunderstanding is our topic today. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster, past district governor, and our Pathways mentor, Trish Blackwelder, on establishing a strong club mentoring culture.
Thank you, Marilyn. And welcome, everyone. Many of you are familiar faces from our club officer training events so far this year. And at the first training event, there was quite a bit of feedback about making this a more in-depth session. Showtime opened up the evening to allow me to go a little off script and spend more time doing just that. So for those of you who have seen the basic presentation already, this will give us a chance to peel back the onion layers and ask questions and share best practices and ideas with each other on how to implement mentoring programs. Some of the parking lot items that came up are wondering how to start a mentoring program, what exactly it is and how to do it, how do you maintain the energy within a mentoring program, and how to know what to do. And those are the types of things that I want to be able to spend time delving into today. All right. Is everybody settled? Okay, then let me go ahead and get the presentation up. It will look somewhat familiar, but it is different. Okay, do I get a thumbs up if you can see the cover page? Thank you, because I'm working now from 2 screens, so I always like to check. Okay. A mentoring program is not just a checklist that says, oh, we have a new member, oh, we have a mentor, we're going to pair them up and we're going to let them do their thing. No, 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 no. Mentoring should be something that is a culture in your club, and ideally you're going to have every member actively involved in constantly mentoring new members and established members, and making sure that everybody is staying fully engaged then in the club. Tonight, I have several points, 2 commitments that have been absolutely made by every club officer to a new member, and 3 cultural recommendations that I want us to dig further into tonight. So, find out which button's going to control things. There we go. All right, so this is what it looks like. When we were talking during training, we brought up the 2 commitments. How many of you, by show of hands, have ever signed a membership application form for a new member? Okay, that's most of you. Did you read the fine print on the back where you signed? Because if you did, you are prepared then to mentor and orient that new member. If you didn't read the fine print, surprise, surprise, you're the one that's responsible now for doing orientation and mentoring with that new member. And if not you, then who in the club is going to do it? Because what you've done when you sign that form is you've made the commitment to the new member to make sure they get proper orientation and mentoring. One of the tools that is very good to use for orienting new members is the Toastmasters Promise, which just so happens to be right there next to where you and the new member sign. when I'm working with a new member, I take the time to go through the Toastmasters promise because it lays out so clearly what's expected of a new member when they join the Toastmasters group. So when it comes to new member orientation, that first commitment that you're making as an officer can be started before you even take their payment. And I do recommend that. I like to go through the Toastmasters promise and then make sure that they understand what those expectations are and that they still want to join. And if they do, then I accept their payment. Okay. If they don't, better to find out now than have a new member that just, never renews or doesn't show back up again. The other things that a new member would need, what would be other things that a new member should be oriented on? Let's hear from you. Not only the expectations of being a Toastmaster through the Toastmasters promise, but what other kinds of things are important that a new member get right away? Marilyn.
I would think that letting them know what the club culture is, their expectations from the club, what they can expect from the club.
Mm-hmm. That it's absolutely something that every new member will have to be onboarded into the club culture. So you can talk about it at orientation, but there should be a plan for engaging them into the culture so that they can experience and better understand it. Cynthia.
I would say also the Toastmasters values and mission so that they understand the level of integrity and what we expect as an organization from them.
Mm-hmm. And I'll still do my soapbox thing. I often hear people in Toastmasters wanting to use the acronym RISE for the values. And there's a reason integrity is first. And if we respect the organization, we will always keep integrity first so that the other values don't become tarnished by lack of integrity.
And Trish Widling has the contribution. She says that we need to help them with pathways. I explain pathways to them.
Absolutely. And even though we're a few years now into the Pathways program, I still find people struggle in trying to explain pathways to folks. I do have a slide and we can get to that if we want to come back and revisit it. But the thing I try to remind especially the legacy Toastmasters with is that Pathway still supports a communication and a leadership aspect to our educational program. So the question that you want to always get clear from a new member is, are they here to work on communication skills or are they here to work on leadership skills? Because whatever their primary focus is how you will then direct them towards paths that would be most appropriate for them. And we can spend a little more time on that later if you'd like to. Okay. Anything else that you think is important for a new member to understand? Connie.
I would introduce them to Toastmasters International's website and AZ3 website.
Okay. The district website and Toastmasters International website. Two good places of sources for them to know where to go and how to find things. And make sure that you always introduce them to search capabilities on both sites so that they can try to find faster the things that they are looking for. Okay. Anything else?
I would walk them through the club website too and the agenda, how to set up their profile on the club website and how to get into the agenda and sign up. I would also recommend it at first to take the minor roles like timer and awe counter before immediately going into an evaluator. But you want to get them to get their icebreaker scheduled too.
And how soon should an icebreaker be scheduled?
To me, as soon as they're able to prepare the icebreaker, and as a mentor, I would be helping them prepare the icebreaker. I wouldn't let them on their own. I would be coaching them and mentoring them on giving the icebreaker and making sure they're talking about something from their heart that they know they don't have to use notes. And they can just talk from their hearts and from their own head.
Mhm. I tell, when I'm introducing the icebreaker, I say, this is nothing you should angst over because the topic is you. You should know yourself pretty well by now. So pick something that you're comfortable talking about that will help the members of the audience get to know you a little better, and just make sure you make your time, 4 to 6 minutes. Toastmasters has long recommended that the icebreaker be scheduled within the first 3 to 4 club meetings, and that's still a good guideline to shoot for. If you let the new member angst over it longer than that, then you're not being fair to them. You're just giving them excuses for putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. It's like, you know, if you wanted, the old adage is, if you want to get wet, just jump into the pool. You know, it's kind of the same thing here with the icebreaker. It's not it's not a pass fail kind of a thing. You're going to get credit for giving it. It's really just for everybody to get a baseline on what your speaking skills are currently at. So just keep it low key, keep it fun, and and enjoy doing it. When I'm doing orientation, I like to schedule the orientation within the first week to 10 days of a person joining Toastmasters. Again, like jumping into the pool, you don't want to let it drag on too long. You want to get it done quickly. They have made a commitment to the club. The club needs to make the commitment back to them by making it a speedy process of getting them oriented. Getting a mentor assigned may take a bit longer, and we'll talk about why in just a little bit. But I like to make sure that from the orientation, I have accomplished several things. Number one, I do them right now. We're doing them on Zoom. So I give them the controls to the Zoom session, and I watch them log into Toastmasters International so I can help troubleshoot any problems. I help them pick their first path. I introduce them to Basecamp because that loads very quickly. And I make sure that they're comfortable then about how to enter and get to their project work. Same thing though, as you suggested, Jimmy, with doing the club website and making sure they know how to log in and how to sign up by having them actually sign up for their icebreaker speech. So there are an orientation should not take hours to do. Really, this is still about 30 to 45 minutes to get through, unless we run into technical difficulties, and then I can say, let's regroup after I can help solve for the technical difficulties. But most times things go very smoothly and they get a chance to ask questions, and we're done in about 30 to 45 minutes. All right. Anybody else have suggestions on how they do orientations? I'm sorry, Marilyn. Yes.
There's a question, Connie has a question about the Zoom orientation. How, she's wondering about like what kind of a time frame would you think would be appropriate for that?
Okay, an orientation in my mind is about 30 to 45 minutes.
No, you mentioned how soon that should be scheduled, and I missed
Oh,
it.
within a week to 10 days.
Week to 10. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions or comments. Woodleen, do you have any questions or comments? Lauren?
I don't have any question, but I do have a feedback as well when it comes to the Zoom training. I do believe that you could also utilize time after the club meeting to go over the Zoom in respect to the person's capacity to pick up really quick. Some people it takes about 15 to 30 minutes. So you could just utilize the time right after the meeting to go over that training real quick.
Absolutely. Okay. So we talked a little about new member orientation. These were some of the high points or some of the talking points that we reviewed during this. I just wanted to bring this slide up in case anybody wanted to take a screenshot of it. Okay. So that was our first commitment. We made a commitment to make sure that every new member would be properly oriented. The second one is around mentorship. So when it comes to member mentorship, I used to always just say, well, I have a list of mentors. I'll assign you a mentor, and here's, here you go. Your mentor will be in touch with you in a few days. The thing though is over the years, I've found that to not be very successful. And primarily it's because of the relationship. So if we were going to talk about assigning mentors, I take a more organic approach now to mentoring. What I say is we will assign you a mentor. Until that happens, I'll be your first point of contact. You can keep in touch with me. But what I'd like you to do during the first couple of meetings is watch the room and see if there's someone that you feel like you're making a connection with. And when you get that feeling, let me know who it is, and I will approach them about being your mentor. And that's allows me to then have a conversation with the person and encourage them to take on the mentoring role for the new member. That way, it's not exactly just stranger, meeting stranger. The member is feeling drawn towards that person for some reason. And that's usually very complimentary then to the member when I talk to them about it. And even if they haven't mentored before, I remind them that it's primarily to help the member through their level 1 projects. Okay. And it's not a lifetime commitment here. It's a short-term commitment of helping through their level 1 projects. And any member that has completed their level 1 is qualified then to coach someone through the level 1 projects. They have their own personal experiences with those projects that they can help relate to the new member with. And the new projects are stable in that they're exactly the same for all the paths. So you don't have to try to learn, like maybe you did engaging humor and they're signing up for presentation mastery, and you would have different projects to have to coach. No, that doesn't happen with pathways. All the level 1 projects are exactly the same regardless of the path. So everybody goes through the same projects. Okay. Any comments or questions about that?
Yeah, I just want a clarification point. When you say that you would, now, are you speaking as the sponsoring member for the new member? Are you speaking as the VPE? Are you speaking as mentoring chair? When you're you, who are you?
When I'm me, it's usually because I'm the vice president of education or the vice president of membership, responsible for having that conversation with the prospective member with their application. So if I have helped them go through the application, and I do refer to it as a contract, it's a membership contract that they're signing, so they should be aware of what's in it. I don't go too slowly, but I go slowly enough to make sure they're comfortable, that they're not feeling pressured. And like I say, I focus a lot on the Toastmasters promise and the fact that we're going to be providing orientation and mentoring. So my first commitment is to get that orientation done. After that, I'm looking for someone else in the club then to step in. Thanks for making me clarify that. Anyone else? Okay. This is too easy. All right. I have mentors that I have had my entire Toastmasters lifetime, and that's over 25 years now. Oh, I'm so old. Okay, so which makes them old too. One of them is younger than me. One of them was older than me. She has passed on. And now there are newbies coming up in an entirely different generation who are trying to educate me on how to relate to the new generations. So, and it's a wild experience, let me tell you. So mentors can be anyone. They don't have to be older. They don't have to be necessarily wiser. They just have to have experiences that they're willing to share and a commitment to want to help the new member reach their full potential. Whether those relationships last a lifetime or last 6 months, the idea is that you have given back, and every member has an obligation to give back for the benefits that they have received from Toastmasters. And one of the best ways to do that is through mentoring. Okay. You can still see on the slide that when it comes to the new member orientation, to Marilyn's question, that generally falls on the Vice President of Membership and the Vice President of Education. But the power of 7 officers in the club is that you load balance as is needed based on people's work and life demands, and the object is that someone gets it done. Okay, someone gets it done. So if you're going to load balance responsibilities amongst the officers, then just make sure everybody's clear on who's responsible for orientation and who's responsible for making the mentor assignment ultimately. When it comes to member mentorship, I've already mentioned a couple of times that anyone that has completed a level 1 is a mentor candidate, in my opinion. They have gotten through the first level, and that's what every new member is going to be struggling to get through. And so everybody has the opportunity to be a mentor there. That means the club executive team as a whole, the membership of the club as a whole are all good candidates. And if you have established a culture of mentoring, which is what we're going to continue talking about tonight, that should come as a natural byproduct then. Everybody would be willing to mentor someone through their first level. Okay. All right, let's move on to the cultural pieces then. For the cultural, this is how you grow a culture of mentoring then in your club. If you are the Vice President of Education, if you're any club officer, then you should be contributing to the culture of mentorship within your club. The first part is in the introduction to mentoring, which comes with level 2 of pathways. So I've mentioned this already, but I'm just bringing it up as a reminder. There's that introduction to mentoring project that you get when you get into level 2. When you are the Vice President of Education, that could be something you encourage people to do as a starting point. It should be familiar. Everybody should have a mentoring story or a mentoring example that they could share while they work on choosing their electives and work on the leadership or communication style projects, which take a little more time because you have to do self-assessments and look at the results and then figure out how you're going to speak to how the results apply to you. So the introduction to mentoring is a good place to start. Remember, all the projects can be done in any order now. So there's no, you have to do this one first or this one second. Jump into the introduction to mentoring. Should be a fairly quick project to write a story about a successful or unsuccessful mentoring experience and share that with the club. And then being a mentor also helps prepare the new member, the established mentor, to prepare the new members for their level 2 projects by having seen the introduction to mentoring speech results from folks and seeing them fairly regularly as a new member. It helps them prepare for how they want to prepare when they move on to level 2 to do their mentoring speech. Okay. If you're a Vice President of Education and you're making sure that everybody completes levels 1, 2, and 3 in a path consistently, you have laid some great foundations for people to have mentoring exposure already. Those first 3 levels touch base with mentoring in several different ways. So you're helping to contribute and establish to that mentoring culture. Now, once you get to level 2 and you complete level 2 and are ready to start level 3, there is an opportunity to sign up for the Pathways Mentor Program. This is not a path, not a path. I will say it again. You will not receive path credit for completing this. It does not count towards the Distinguished Club program, maybe one day, but not yet, okay? But why would someone then be interested in taking the mentoring program? If anyone professionally has ever had to coach, lead, guide, help develop professionals in their organization, the mentoring program is a resume building skill that they should take and they should work in order to demonstrate knowledge and experience. The reward will come when they receive their certificate for proficiency in mentoring as a result, which means that is a resume building skill. You can list that as something that you've accomplished and been recognized by for Toastmasters International. I have achieved that proficiency. I set my DTM aside, which I thought was the thing I was going to go through first, and went for the mentoring program certification. The self-assessment part of the mentoring program was the thing that was a real eye-opener for me. I made a commitment that I was going to do the self-assessment totally upfront, totally honest. I was going to have tough love with myself through it so that I could really experience how the program would work. And that self-assessment step took longer than I thought it would to. Didn't take forever, it just took a little longer than I thought it would. And it changed my opinion about a lot of my leadership and communication style. I got so many insights from it. So I now encourage everybody to take the mentoring program opportunity when it's presented to you. And you will see it in the suggested learning area of your Basecamp landing page when you have completed level 2 and started or activated level 3, okay? It happens during that window. There are 2 mentoring projects that are the experiential learning part of the program, a short-term project and a long-term project. Your short-term project must be mentoring another Toastmaster. Your long-term project can be mentoring a non-Toastmaster with your Vice President of Education's approval. Okay. I did Toastmasters for both of my mentoring projects, but the advanced one was a unique mentoring situation that applied both to Toastmasters and outside of life as well. So kind of a split level, but it worked for me. Okay. But it's nice to know that both mentoring relationships are not required to be Toastmasters in case you do have the opportunity to use a work situation for completing the program. Okay. Any questions about the Pathways Mentor Program? Okay. This is what the program contains. This is the Prepare to Mentor, which I give 5 gold stars to. This to me was worth everything, you know, what I gained in insights for myself. I don't think anybody could have challenged me as well as I challenged myself. And then the short-term mentoring, the 6-month term mentoring, and then the steps that you need to go through, including your reflect on your learning speech at the end. Okay. All right. Imagine if you had 20 plus members in your club, and every member took the Pathways Mentor Program option when it was presented to them. Think of the contribution that would make to the culture of mentoring in your club. In one of my other clubs that we're in, our guests often tell us that what they appreciate most about the meeting, that when they see the meeting, then is how everybody is so supportive, and the coaching that goes on during the course of the meeting, not just the evaluation program. We've had functionaries that just kind of fall off track, a first-time Toastmaster that can't seem to find where they are on the agenda, and we take every opportunity to use those situations for coaching and reminding them that it's okay. I can remember someone doing their first evaluation, and they couldn't get 3 words out without just having to stop and take a deep breath, and we just said, don't worry about it. What did you think about this? How did you feel about this? Oh yeah, that's part I really liked. I really liked how you said, and we coached them through their entire evaluation for the full 3 minutes. So those are the types of ways that I think that club has established a strong mentoring culture, that whenever there's a faux pas of some kind or a hiccup in the program, that they see someone immediately step up and start coaching to help someone through a tough situation. And those are the kinds of things that you want to be able to claim in your club as well. All right, I think I missed mentioning that to fulfill the mentor program, you do need to complete the mentor program and complete a full path. So you will need to make both of those criteria to get your certification. Okay. All right, and then the last one, when you establish a quality club culture, you will have that type of continuous active mentoring that I was just mentioning about one of my clubs. Having a strong onboarding and mentoring, make sure that you're getting members engaged faster. They start absorbing the club culture. They get fully engaged as a member quicker. And when they are feeling engaged and getting benefits from their progress in Toastmasters, they will want to sign up again. I always use the reference about, I sign up for a gym, so I can lose weight, but I don't lose any weight after 3 months. So why would I sign up to continue my membership? And I think that's what happens in Toastmasters. We didn't get them oriented. We didn't get their icebreaker, done within the first 3 to 4 meetings. We didn't get them absorbed into the club culture. They still don't understand why we asked the Toastmaster to print the agenda and bring it to the meeting. So they just don't be the Toastmaster. They only do timer and grammarian, and they won't step up and do any of the major roles. Those are the reasons that people don't renew then when renewals come around. It's just like, no, this is too much work. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm really not feeling like I'm gaining anything. They won't necessarily tell you those things. They just stop showing up and they don't renew. So make sure that you take away from this conversation tonight the importance that orientation and mentoring play in member retention. When you leverage the Pathways Mentor Program, you're not only supporting Toastmasters, but you're getting some really great mentoring training that would cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to try to get outside of Toastmasters. I got on my soapbox as a brand new member for the leadership program in Toastmasters because my company sent me to a leadership foundations program. And I was involved in it for like 6 weeks. Somebody in Toastmasters gave me a high performance leadership module and told me to make a committee opportunity that I was taking a high performance leadership. And as I was going through the leadership, the high performance leadership manual, I kept going, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. And when I was done, I laid it down. I went and got my foundations for leadership materials from the bank and laid them down, and I went, they're the same thing. They're the same thing. And, you know, and the high performance leadership module was what, like $11 or something. And they paid thousands of dollars to send me to the bank's program. I don't think that members often realize the incredible value we're getting, the training, the quality of the training, the experiential learning that we get, that we would pay thousands of dollars for, or our companies would pay thousands of dollars for, to give us professionally. Take advantage of every opportunity that you have and talk about them. I've started telling people for about the price of a cup of coffee every month, I could get the same professional quality leadership training that I got through the bank's program, and I didn't have to pay thousands of dollars for it. You know, so look at what you might be thinking you have to train for outside of Toastmasters, and make sure it's not already available to you in our program. Take advantage of getting that certificate of becoming a Pathways mentor. Like a DTM, once you've earned it, it's never stripped off your list of educational achievements. So I will forever be a DTM, a past district governor, and a Pathways mentor now. When you are experiencing those kinds of benefits and you're getting the energy that you get from helping a new member experience the benefits, then it just means you'll want to be more active and engaged. Every year that I finish heavy duty leadership assignment, I tell anybody that asks me why I'm not serving the next year, I tell them it's because I need to go back and get the energy from the new members again. I have given so much for that service year. I need to go get my batteries recharged. And there's nothing that does it better than a really good quality Toastmasters meeting with new members in it. That just supercharges me every time. And then make sure that you give back. That was one of the insights that I got out of the self-assessment. You know, I'm getting old and crotchety. I understand it. Some people just tolerate me. Some people actually still like me. It's okay, wherever you are on the meter, you know, that's fine. You don't have to tell me. I don't really need to know. But I have 25 plus years of experience, you know, 20 years of that involved with training club officers, you know, club coaches, club mentors, mentoring clubs. I have a lot of knowledge, and I have to be responsible for making sure I pass that along to the next generation. And that is why I am serving sometimes the crazy schedules that I agree to, is because I want to make sure I give back for everything that I received from this being involved in this organization. And I want to encourage every member to want to do the same thing. Don't just be the leech and take it away. Give it back as well to somebody else who needs that education. On that note, the rest of the time is yours. Never give away stage time. So this is your opportunity now to start sharing, and sharing with me too some of the things that you've taken away from this presentation, or some of the things that your club does really well that you'd like to brag about. Who's going to go first? Kathy.
Yes, I don't know if I want to brag about this or not, but I was asked by these two new members in another club I'm in to be their mentor. And I thought that was fantastic. I was very honored to be their mentor. And so I set up some appointments, initial appointments, like we talk about the initial assessment type of thing. And neither of these people have ever come back to meetings. So I'm wondering if possibly sometimes I think this mentorship program, maybe it goes too fast for some people, you know, to have your one thing done within 10 days, your speech within 3 meetings. Like, for example, this other club I'm in, we meet weekly. So that's, you know, pretty fast for them to do a speech, I think. So I don't know if it's got to have some type of give and take in there, or just, I just got two people who tried it out and found that it wasn't for them. I'm not sure what happened there. I haven't been able to contact them since they left, so I'm not sure what happened.
Trish, would it be
You know,
okay if I said something to that?
pardon?
Would it be okay if I said something to that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I think one of the concerns that a brand new member has, and I'm speaking of brand new members, is they start looking and they're comparing themselves to people who are giving the speeches at the club. And a mentor's very first responsibility is to let them know that everybody in the Toastmasters Club is an individual, and that, I believe it was said earlier, if you can't talk about yourself, you know, and we're only talking 4 to 6 minutes, it doesn't have to be polished, it doesn't have to be prepared. It's just so people can get to know them. And I think that sometimes we forget that instead of just saying, oh, you got to give your speech, we just say, we want to know you. You know, we need to know you better. So tell us about yourself. And that kind of
I tell them,
pressure down.
tell us something about yourself, or make up a story, whatever you like to do, your hobbies, favorite hobby, whatever you might like to tell us about yourself. That's usually an easy subject for people to do. But I'm just wondering if maybe I can see where historically this system has worked. It certainly has worked. But I'm wondering if some people, sometimes they have to be adapted a little bit for other people, for certain people.
Remember that one of the things that I said, when you sit down to have the conversation, I start with the back of the membership application, okay? Before you sign, this is what people are going to be asking of you. But I liken it in my head. You know, I've signed up for gym memberships. I've signed up for, you know, magazine subscriptions. There's always a commitment. And one of the things that I learned as part of my assessment was making sure to ask more questions than giving answers. How do you feel about this? What seems to be a good pace for you? I will share an example of, I like to speak about every 4th meeting. Do you think that's going to be enough time for you? Do you think you're going to need longer? What kind of pace do you think you'd be comfortable with? And you're getting them to help give you answers. And then you have something to work with. If I said, I want you to sign up for your first 3 speeches, if I were the new member, I'd run. You know, you don't want to do that. Even the conversation that I have about pathways is very low key and very non-aggressive. It's not telling them they have to jump in and do an entire, you know, level in 6 weeks. Okay. But I do want them to understand how to find project information so that they can review the projects and determine which projects they want to do and in what order. That's part of their homework, is to understand, you know, which projects they want to start with. We do require that you start with the icebreaker. I will say it that way, only because it's the easiest speech you should ever have to give. The least amount of expectation, probably the least amount of prep that you'll ever put together, although I've seen some really, you know, killer icebreakers, you know, that were incredibly detailed, but you're not laying those expectations on them. So think back on the conversations that you tried to have with those folks. Did you tell them they have to meet with you? They have to do this. There's 2 words you never want to use when you're working with someone in a new role, and that's have to and should have and should. You never should on people. You never have to on people, because that's where they start to get feeling overwhelmed then that they can't keep up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Got
it. Okay.
I haven't given up on them. I'm still going to look for them.
Yeah, absolutely. But remember, it's okay. I'm just doing adages tonight. There's an old one about you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink unless you salt the food. Learn to throw salt. Okay. Salt the food. Don't make demands. Salt the food. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm mentoring two people right now, a brand new member in District 3 in my other club. I think you know who that is. And I'm also mentoring a new member up here in District 26 that I actually work with. So I'm able to mentor him while we're at work just casually during the day. And one of the things I try to tell new members is the entire level 1 is any topic you want to talk about. So it can be very similar to an icebreaker. Talk about a hobby. You know, the other one that's a little more specific is running a speech with a purpose, but it could be something about yourself. You want, you know, your purpose might be to tell people about a particular part of your life or your work life or hobby or family. And the other one is vocal variety. Just add vocal variety. Tell a story and, you know, make a personal story about something. You'll naturally have vocal variety if it's coming from your heart. So all the speeches in level 1 are any topic you want to talk about. And that's what I tell them, just think about something that you know, that you don't have to do research.
I would never tell anybody what they have to talk about.
No.
You know, it just like you say, it can be anything that you're comfortable talking about. You know, we never, in fact, we never in Toastmasters tell a person what they have to talk about. That they should have the freedom really to talk about anything that they want to. We may have to challenge ourselves as evaluators to listen to topics that we don't necessarily personally agree with. But that is the art of evaluation. Can you set aside your personal opinion and give an objective evaluation to a speaker?
Yeah, you're not supposed to evaluate the content of the speech. You're supposed to be evaluating the presentation style and method.
Exactly.
Right.
Although I still reserve the right to say, I think you could have been more effective if you'd done this phrasing instead of that phrasing. Anyway. All right, I want to go back to Kathy's earlier statement. Another question is, check your club culture out. What do you do as a club to show the support? Do you make a big to-do about things? Do you give recognition? For example, I'm going to go back to my home club. We like to take an icebreaker and put it up first on the agenda so they don't have to follow a DTM. Okay, then we make sure that we make a big standing ovation for the, when we're in person, we do a big standing ovation. We're figuring out how to do a standing ovation now online to recognize that that is a major milestone in having completed the icebreaker speech. And we award their Toastmasters membership pin to them the night they give their icebreaker as officially becoming a full member of Toastmasters by now having given a speech. So when somebody gets that kind of reinforcement from the club, you know, it makes the next speech a lot easier to do. So that's something else I would ask you to look at, is look at the club culture. Look at your club culture and see if you're really being welcoming and supportive. I'm not saying you're bad people. I'm just saying that sometimes especially if you have a lot of senior members, not senior old, but senior inexperienced members, they start forgetting the niceties. You know, we're all guilty of it, I'm sure. Okay, Robin, you've been quiet, and Wildleen, I want to give you the opportunity also to jump in here.
All right, I'll jump in with a comment. One of the things I think you want to be careful about is not necessarily telling people that the icebreaker is the easiest speech you'll ever do, because that by itself could be pretty scary. Because it's like, oh my gosh, if that's easy, you know, I can't even get up here and say hello. that matter. So that's.
I don't think I've ever said it, but it rolled off my tongue tonight very easily.
And if it goes downhill from there, then I'm in serious trouble. And why am I coming back? So I think that is something to be at least a little careful about. Maybe it will actually get easier as you go along, hopefully. So that's my thought.
Okay.
But I have mentored a couple of people, certainly through when I was in the legacy program, I guess, through it. And that was always really fulfilling. I really enjoyed doing that. It was always really nice and good to have somebody say, oh, thank you, and see kind of the light get in their eyes when they were going from that, oh my God, I can't open my mouth kind of stage. And also, in fact, I did a youth leadership program for a bunch of kids that were in junior high and high school that were into doing robotics. And they had to go out and do presentations. And for them, they were standing there with the paper right in front of their face, scared to death. And within 6 to 8 weeks of that program, they looked like superstars. It was amazing. And that was such an incredibly good feeling. So I would recommend the youth leadership program, at least that
If
one.
any of you ever had the opportunity to watch Mike DeSerbo in action as a youth leadership program leader, it was phenomenal what he got out of those kids. I'm sure that there have been some great youth leadership program, leaders, but I was just stunned when I kind of hung out with Mike for a while and watched what he did with kids. Yeah, that was just awesome.
So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, then I will leave you with one of the things that is just, yes, Cynthia.
I find that for me, if I set the expectation of what the meeting's going to cover, makes a big difference for the value to be on both sides. I know you don't want to overwhelm them, but by the same token, having them to go to the websites and at least take a look at it. And I always say, click buttons everywhere, explore, you can't break it. But get a sense of what's going on out there. That way, when we meet, they can have some additional questions ready that I could easily address, because then I'm not just giving them all the information, but then they should be able to go out and explore all of the things that the Toastmasters program has to offer. And then the questions should be generated. This is what I want to get out of the program. And I saw this on this tab. How do I get there? How do I use it? And so by encouraging them in advance, hey, prior to the meeting, if you can just go to these 2 sites, take a look at it, click on everything, and get some additional questions together, it makes it much more valuable to them versus, okay, here's our program, here's this. It lets them, I guess, I forgot what the word is. It's like you want to go to a new restaurant, but you kind of want to see what they serve on the menu. So you go to their website and see what the menu has on it. So when you go to the restaurant, you know what to expect. How's that? That's a good way.
There you go. Especially if they have pictures.
Yes.
I go, oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, yeah.
Marilyn tried something at the restaurant the other day just based on the picture that was on the menu. It looked good, and it was good. Lidleen, did you have something you wanted to add?
The only comment that I have is, well, first, thank you so much. I've learned a lot. And the fact that when you share that being a mentor, you also receive and obtain skills that you can actually use in the professional world as a leader. I have yet to have a mentor here in Toastmasters, but to be a mentee here, sorry, it's the other way around. I have not been a mentor, but currently a mentee, and I've been a mentee for a protege for a year plus. I have an amazing leader who's been my mentor. And not only that, I get to follow and watch some of the things that she has worked with me and carry that to my professional world. So it's vice versa. Both the mentor and the proteges, they receive so many skills that through the program, that's not only valuable to Toastmasters, but you can take that to the professional world. And you just reminded us of that today. So that's a takeaway for me.
Thank you. All right, I'm still a Pathways geek, and so I still have the Pathways sheet up. So I want to throw in my last plug, and that is, if you look at the Pathways program laid out on this one pager, you will see that there are still communication skills and leadership skills, both at the core competency level as well as in the 11 paths. And for people that are still struggling, these numbers to the right of each path are referencing the core competencies that are and how they're weighted within the material of the path. So if someone tells me they're here really for communication skills, this will make sense why public speaking, top of the list for communication skills, comes into play in all the paths, because we are a communications organization. But if they say, no, I'm here to learn leadership skills and I want to move up in my career, I need to learn how to become a manager, then drop down to management. It's number 4, and look for where 4 is the next highest weighted content for that path. So I would not be up here talking about engaging humor and dynamic leadership and all of that. I would be talking about innovative planning and team collaboration. And I hear too often members are trying to go through every path, all the contents with every new member. And if I would be overwhelmed if you were trying to give me all of that. So it's back to asking questions. If I say, are you here for communication or leadership? Leadership. Okay, then let's put the top of the chart aside. Strategic leadership or management? Which one appeals to you most? Management. Okay, then let's go over and look at innovative planning and team collaboration. And those are the next 2 sheets I would bring up. The thing I would be looking for is whether or not either of those paths requires a high performance leadership project in order to complete the path, because that's the biggest monster of all the education projects, is the high performance leadership program. It's a good program, trust me. I mean, I developed my soapbox off of it, as I said, but it is a 3 to 6 month commitment, and they should know going in that they're going to have to complete that to complete the path. I had one new member tell me that was okay. They were okay with that. So we did sign them up for a path that was going to finish with an HPL, but they can't ever tell me they didn't know to expect that then. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit. If you still struggle with how to explain pathways, less is more, and learn how to narrow it down as quickly as you can. It is 7:30. We will end on time, but I always like to hang around for a little bit with anybody who wants to chit chat. So don't shut down, don't shut down the Zoom, but we can stop the recording. And again, I thank you for your time and attention tonight. And as soon as I hear the recordings